Welcome. It's a pleasure to be sitting here and discoursing about this topic. So a bit of background. I have always wanted to have an opportunity to help younger lawyers learn the ropes faster than occurs when you're working in the workplace. The truth is, as an employee, the employers have several competing demands. On one hand, they need to meet deadlines. On the other hand, they recognize they have to train you. The older lawyers are swamped because they're competing deadlines. And sometimes, as happens when there are lots of competing interests, there are conflicts. So having spent 13 years plus in practice and one of the top tier law firms in Lagos, I thought it was time to take a bow to do some of the things I actually like to do, which includes training and mentoring. And so over the next couple of weeks or so, I will be speaking to you about issues that you would find helpful as you transition into legal practice, whether in-house or in a law firm. And so this first series, we will deal with due diligence reviews. And I will start with an introduction, and I will cover the following topics: corporate information, material contract, regulatory compliance, intellectual property, real estate or real property, depending on your preference, employment, litigation. I think I missed something. 1 second, let me check my notes. And yeah, that is it. I knew I missed something. Financing. It's called, some people call it financing arrangements. In some sectors, you'll hear it called credit and security. But anyway, it's talking about the company's loans and security interest they've created over their assets. So this is the introduction to due diligence reviews. I have given you a broad overview of the background to why I'm doing this. And I have given you an outline of what to expect during this time with me. And so without wasting your time, let's talk about what is due diligence review? Why is it such a big deal? And quite a bit of, if you ever work on any transaction at all, you certainly will do a due diligence review. Whether it's in the context of a mergers and acquisition, or whether it's just in the context of equity investment, or even a loan investment, there is some level of due diligence and review going on. And a bulk of your time was spent just poring over documents. And then that leads you to wonder, why exactly are they hung up on those due diligence reviews? The due diligence review helps you ascertain. I'll take a step back. Now, there are a couple of, before I even say what due diligence review means, I think it's important to remember whenever you're asked to do a diligence review that you need to understand why you're doing that review. Is it in the context of a acquisition, or in the context of a loan transaction, or is it in the context of a merger, or some other form of, a very short form minority acquisition of shares, or is it a majority acquisition of shares, or is it just a restructuring that the company is looking to do? Always bear this in mind before you get into that due diligence review deep dive. Understand the transaction, because it drives the nature of a due diligence you will be doing. Now, what is a due diligence review? You'll find so very many descriptions as you go, but I think that the easiest way to understand is that you want to know where this target company stands in terms of their operations. Where are they in terms of, I did mention corporate information at the beginning. What does this books look like? Statutory books. What does its corporate shareholding history looks like? What are the memorandum? Are there provisions in its memorandum and articles of association you should be concerned about? You want to evaluate what the company has done. That's really what the due diligence review does. It evaluates what the company has done, how the company has operated. It gives you an overview of where the company stands in its compliance status, and what risks you should be concerned about, and how you want to, and then articulate how to address those risks in the context of your transaction. So that's what a due diligence review is about. And there are quite a few of them. I have talked about the different types. Sometimes, well, many times, it is investor-led. It is the person or entity that is looking to make the investment that is driving the due diligence reviews. But sometimes we'll have the target company actually doing a review on itself, typically called a vendor DD. And you hear me use the word DD quite a lot. It's short form for due diligence. Due diligence is a mouthful, you'll agree. So sometimes during the course of this video, you will hear me say DD. Let me say a few words about the vendor DD. Why would you need a vendor DD? A vendor DD typically is done when the company is looking to do, usually it's first raise, capital raise. Either it wants to go public or it wants to put itself in readiness to attract investors. And so what the company is doing is trying to take stock of its own operations. Where do I stand? Are my statutory books in order? My register of members, my register of directors, and register of directors' interests, register of charges, the minute books, the ones for the directors and the ones for the shareholders. Where are we on that? Are my filings at the Corporate Affairs Commission up to date? Are there any things I should be concerned about? Are there any irregularities in my filings? And this is why, and that's from a corporate perspective. If it was from a regulatory compliance, where are we on our permits? Are there any loans I haven't documented, or any loans where I'm falling back? I am not quite meeting my obligations. They just want to know, they want a holistic view of where they stand in terms of their regulatory compliance and statutory obligations and contractual obligations as well too. You know, both in terms of the mandatory, the good to have, and just housekeeping. So they're ready and they're little surprises when an investor comes. Sometimes they do actually take steps to address all of those concerns before the investors come in. Sometimes they're not quite able to do that, but they are aware of what the issues are and they're better armed to negotiate. That's a vendor DD. Now, the investor DD is the one you'll see most often. There's either, as I said earlier, some merger going on, or there's some acquisition going on, or there's a loan investment, or just even asset acquisition. And it's very common in this market. And you'll get loads and lots of questions. So that's the introduction to due diligence. Now we know what it is. It is not as esoteric as it sounds. It's actually rather interesting, I would say. So I'll stop here and we'll see in a few minutes when we look at corporate information. Thank you.